right, good morning. We're going to start the meeting for Harris County Board of Supervisors for January 23rd. We're going to start this morning with a prayer from Deacon Henderson from St. John the Evangelist. We miss you at St. James very much. It's so good to see you. Good morning.
He baptized my son.
He married me.
Dear Lord, come be with us. Inspire our Board of Supervisors and lead them in this time together. May your love and sense of goodness be present among us today. Bless this gathering with unity, with hope, and with vision. Build in us a profound respect for each other and the people we serve, so we may do your holy will in our proceedings. Lord, fill us with your vision of how we can unite our constituents in a genuine sense of neighborly love and fraternity. All this we ask in your holy name. Amen.
Amen. Supervisor Martin, would you lead us in the pledge this morning, please?
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
All right, we have one quick addendum. I'll start with that. Order approving transfer of $216,712.34 into our tort fund, payable from account 001-121-957. Motion?
Motion. Second.
Anyone, discussion? Anyone opposed? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Motion carries. All right, Justice Court, order approving mileage reimbursement for Justice Court employees as listed below, payable from 001-166-475. Motion?
Motion.
Second. Discussion? Anyone opposed? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Motion carries. Number 2, Road Department, order approving the 4-year road plan as recommended by Timothy L. Smith, Road Manager, as on file with the clerk of the board. Motion?
Second.
Discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Anyone opposed? Motion carries. Sand Beach, order authorizing advertisement for bids on Sand Beach Department equipment as listed. Motion?
Motion.
Second.
Discussion. Is this in the budget? I'm sorry.
I don't have a clue. He just asked me to put it in.
I'm assuming it is.
Yeah.
Yes.
It sounds familiar.
It was capital that y'all approved
Okay.
during the budget years.
Any more discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Anyone opposed? Motion carries. Number 4, personnel, order approving payment of claims listed to be paid from the tort account. Motion?
Motion.
Second discussion. Tim, just clarification. Notice on one, some of your listings on the emails that you dealt with, there was an email referencing public records request in reference to the fairgrounds. Is there something going on at the fairgrounds that somebody's requesting?
On the tort bill?
On the tort.
No, I'm talking about, no, not the tort.
Oh, that's what we're.
And your bill, the listing.
There's a lot going on with fairgrounds.
Well, it was the email that you dealt with. I'm not questioning whether,
No,
I'm just curious as to what it referenced, records request for the fairgrounds. Do you know?
I don't remember off the top of my head, I'll have to look at it. Do you remember what it was? Oh.
It was Angel Middleton.
Oh, the records request, I forgot.
Okay, yeah, all right. I just, anytime I see a records request, I get curious as to why.
Yeah, she made a public records request for the records, and then we helped respond to it.
Okay.
She ended up being satisfied with what she got. I don't remember anything other than that.
That's all. Just wanted to know what it was.
All right, all those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. Number 5, Purchasing Department, order taking off the table the lowest and best bid due to shorter completion time and more comprehensive warranty for the purchase of removing and replacing old flooring throughout the Emergency Management Agency Department from the Flooring Mart in the total amount of $14,992 payable from 001-260-641 as recommended by the EMA Director.
So
Motion.
moved.
Do I have a second?
Second.
Discussion?
Discussion. Is this gonna be a?
Let's just take it off the
Okay.
table.
I'm sorry.
All those in favor
Discuss
say
it anytime.
Yeah.
I'm ready to discuss it anytime.
All right. All those in favor, we have one eye. Anyone opposed? Okay, motion carries. Now, number 6, order approving the lowest and best bid for the purchase of removing and replacing the old flooring throughout the EMA department from Floorco in the total amount of $11,269.47 payable from 001-260-641 as recommended by the EMA Director. Motion?
Motion.
Second, discussion. Our guys can't put it in, I mean, they've done this whole courthouse.
They don't install the
They did?
flooring.
Okay.
They don't install flooring.
Okay, they did over,
Not the floor, they
No,
contract.
they contracted the, like this floor.
Yeah, they contract flooring.
okay. All right. I was thinking the outside building grounds could do it a
Yeah.
lot cheaper.
If you recall, we had a little issue with that one out in the hall, I think.
Mm-hmm.
So
And
that
that
was a
was,
contractor.
they fixed it.
Yeah.
Any more discussion? All those in favor say aye. Motion carries. Sheriff?
Currently, we have 790 total, 37 misdemeanors, 115 females, 72 that have cleared state arrest, and 33 federal inmates.
Thank you. Comptroller, order authorizing the reimbursement to the road fund 150-000-360 for the following work performed. Motion?
Motion.
Second.
Discussion? All those in favor say aye. Anyone opposed? Motion carries. Number 7, order acknowledging the December travel and procurement card details as follows. Motion?
Motion.
Second.
Discussion? All those in favor say aye. Anyone opposed? Motion carries. Number 10, Chancery Clerk, order spreading upon the minutes the following executed documents. Motion?
Motion. Second. Sorry.
Discussion? All those in favor say aye. Anyone opposed? Motion carries. 11, order approving claims docket per Mississippi Code of 1972, Section 191327. Motion?
Motion.
Second.
Any discussion? All those in favor say aye. Anyone opposed? Motion carries. 12, order approving payment of claims listed below. Motion?
Motion.
Yes.
Discussion?
Tim, I apologize, that's what I thought.
Discussion.
I apologize, I drove through it, everything was wrong.
Anything on these, Marla?
Is this the?
Threw me for a minute, because I was trying to figure out.
I'm sorry, that's my fault.
Is this the group that we've been paying all along?
Your
Hickory?
claims.
For land.
For land revenue? Okay. I just have to have a refresher. Refresh. Thank you.
Hit the button. Any more discussion? All those in favor say aye. Anyone opposed? Motion carries. 13, order approving appointment of Judy J.D. Lee as Special Master Pro Tem to hear the involuntary commitment proceedings for Harrison County, Mississippi, as recommended by Senior Chancellor Carter Buys. Motion?
Motion.
Second discussion. Okay, when I first started on the board, I had asked about using our former engineer to help with the project, and I was told legally they had to be gone for a year. Is the same true with this?
She does. She just put it on the board, so 90 days out,
That ain't a year, 90 days.
No, 90
it's only
days.
90 days out.
That's for
County employee.
retirement. That's for a retirement system, but
But
if,
she-
you're talking about the.
Yeah, I was
falls under
told,
the ethics.
Tim or Tricia, y'all may remember,
I do.
when I wanted to use Danny Boudreaux, but it was before we hired Jackie, it was kind of in between. If we could use the county engineer after he retired, went to work somewhere else, And I was told no, that he had to be gone for a year. So what is, I'm just curious.
This may be a little bit different, but I'd have to look at it to make sure.
I think you ought to look at it, because I don't know, that's what I was
I
told.
mean,
And I heard that at ethics,
It is.
at MAS, they said the same thing, that they had to be gone a year, so.
Well, the difference is this falls under the.
Court.
So it's appointed special master or something the court does, and so we don't have a lot of choice in it. And so the question is,
Can she
is she
serve?
contracted with the county, or is she being appointed by the court? I'd have to look and see if there's a difference. If you want to table it, does she need it immediately? Just table it to the next meeting, I'll look at the statute.
Yeah, if you don't mind, I'll move that we table until you can research it, because I'm just a little worried about it.
Okay, we have a motion and a second to table number 13. All those in favor say aye.
Oh, my eyes are bad.
Anyone opposed?
And one more thing, find out too what the rule is for employees, because
I will.
some of them have talked about retiring and coming back in 6 months,
I
or
will. I'll look at the
part-time,
statute.
or, I just was curious.
It's
If
been
it
a
was
while.
for
since I
everybody,
looked at
or.
it. I'll just look at it, it's been a while.
Why would you wanna come back?
Well,
I know, right?
I can't understand why that would be an issue with the employees, because that's a set amount, a contract, you know.
That's right, they don't have any voting.
They don't have any voting or any.
So I'll look at it.
I'm just curious.
Yeah, that's a good question. All right, so we have a motion, a second, and it passed, but anyone opposed? Okay, motion carries to table. Number 14, order approving payment of $41,838.12 to the Harrison County School District for 2023 rental payment on 16th section lands leased by Harrison County for CSU building on County Barn Road. Invoice HCSD 1014 payable from 001-100-530. Motion.
Motion.
Second.
Discussion?
Yeah, why don't we?
It's expensive.
I know.
Yes, I know. We've had a couple of empty buildings, but I guess they're not set up right. Is that for the whole year, the 41,000?
So this is the CSU.
CSU.
CSU, which is.
Okay.
Yeah, they got bars in the
That's
windows.
16 section lease.
Right.
Right?
How many acres is it?
Okay.
It's not big.
No, but it probably is set up special, no.
It increases each year, it's got fluctuations.
Supposed to be an appraised value, supposed to be appraised.
It is, but
No,
it's
you're
got a
not.
function, it's like a 3%, it's some kind of CPI index, whatever that is.
When we put a building on it, increases the value of the property.
Yeah, exactly.
So,
Any further discussion? All those in favor say aye. Anyone opposed? Motion carries. 15, order approving payment of $8,487.86 to the Harrison County School District for 2023 rental payment on 16 section lands leased by Harrison County for Community Road Office. Invoice HCSD 1017 payable from 001-155-530. Motion?
motion.
Second
Second
discussion.
discussion, the only thing I'd say
This
is
is
probably
going away.
Right.
closing their eyes and holding their nose when they take that check, because it sure ain't worth it.
But that's going away as soon as our,
Yeah.
speaking of that, when's our ETA? What's the ETA on our new building?
The contract puts it like to fall,
Oh, good.
so right about as we switch budgets, we'll be looking at doing furniture and fixtures and all that kind of thing.
Yeah, it's not a lot, but at least it'll be in ours.
Yeah, exactly.
That's
Any more
a deal.
discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Anyone opposed? Motion carries. 16, order approving payment to the Harrison County School District for 2023 rental payments on 16 section lands leased by Harrison County. The old wool market looks like.
No, me.
Motion?
Motion.
Do we have a
Second.
discussion? All those in favor say aye. Anyone opposed? Motion carries.
We need to start charging them for cutting their grass all the time, huh?
We should.
Over there
Pay
at
them
school.
Number 17, order authorizing issuance of duplicate warrant for $923.50 to Michael Giardini per certificate and affidavit filed with the Chancery Clerk. Motion?
Motion.
Discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Anyone opposed? Motion carries. Board agenda number 18, order approving purchase of new laptop and devices needed for the county court courtroom in the total amount of $1,705.28 as detailed below, and authorizing budget amendment to 001-175-919. The court reporter's previous laptop quit working and cannot be repaired. Motion?
Motion.
Second.
Discussion? All those in favor say aye. Anyone opposed? Motion carries. Number 19, order acknowledging receipt of and spreading upon the minutes the employment rosters for the Sheriff's Office, Fire Services, and District Attorney for premium payments under House Bill numbers 1427 and 1542, passed in the Mississippi Legislative Regular Session of 2022, per list as on file with the Payroll Administrator and Personnel Human Resources Department. We acknowledge the House bills and authorize payments on August 1st, 2022. Motion?
Motion.
Second, discussion, that includes, district attorney, isn't that the,
He had three investigators,
Is that-
law enforcement.
is that one? Oh, okay.
All those in favor say aye. Anyone opposed? Motion carries. 20, order adjudicating the board president's signature on insurance documents related to policy number Builder's Risk Requested Binding, Building Under Construction at 12423 Seaway Road, Gulfport, Mississippi. Motion?
Motion.
Second.
Discussion, and that's what we were just talking about, right, on Seaway?
Yes.
The building, okay. All those in favor say aye. Anyone opposed? Motion carries. 21, order taking off the table the rental agreement for the use of the Harrison County Fairgrounds. Motion?
Motion. Second.
Discussion?
And your mom.
All those in favor say aye.
Uh,
Anyone opposed? Motion carries. 22, order approving the form of application, rental agreement, and post-event report for the lease of the Harrison County Fairgrounds and Equestrian Center, and authorizing the director of said facilities to execute same on behalf of Harrison County. Motion?
Motion. Second discussion, if I may.
Sure.
I'm not sure who wrote this up, but I got several questions. The first one is, my copy keeps saying refers to Exhibit A, and I never got an Exhibit A.
Oh,
The
I
second
attached
one
a
is-
map.
Oh, I didn't get it. And the second one was, there's a $50 deposit. Is that per zone, or is it for the whole thing?
Per zone.
Per zones, okay. The next one is, and I'm sorry, y'all, I tried to.
No, that's fine.
There's a conflict. It says Harrison County shall refund all or a portion of the facility deposit upon conclusion of the lease term provided. That conflicts with it being on another page. First of all, I'm not sure that's possible to give them their deposit back at the end of the deal, because I think it's gotta go through the claims docket, doesn't it?
Yes.
So that would be, to me, hard to do, but it conflicts with, on page 2 of the other document, it says, Harrison County shall refund all or a portion of the facility deposit upon conclusion of the lease term, provided the lease premises is surrendered in good condition. Refunds due shall be issued within 60 days.
Yes.
So these are two separate deals.
Yes, because we do have to file the claims, with the claims docket, and then that's when I believe their office refunds them that money. So we don't refund them personally. or
Okay, so maybe on that
Just
first
take off,
section,
went over.
you might want to delete that,
Okay.
in my opinion.
Well, it really doesn't conflict, because you're saying it's gonna be refunded at the conclusion of the lease. The conclusion of the lease includes the 60-day time period after the lease ends.
Well, that's misleading to me, because if I lease it for the 22nd, my lease is up to 22nd, I just don't want the
Well,
customer to think that
think
they're
they're
getting their money
That's
when
fine,
they
you can
walk
clarify,
out the
but
door.
ultimately, when you say conclusion of the lease, that means the end of the lease.
But it's kind of spells that out on the
Understand.
other part.
That's fine.
That's
we can
just my
clarify.
2 cents. And then I would put $50 per zone on there, because that kind of looks like it's the whole thing.
Okay. Yes, ma'am.
And then the other, and I'm sorry, I was hurriedly running through this. Then the other one I had was, hold on. Page 4, the cancellation. It says something about 14 days, And I thought we had like 6 months or something. I'm just worried that if I wanted to have a dog show there, and Rebecca wanted to have a good dog show there, well, I could technically tie that area up. If every 2 weeks, I'd just cancel it and then go back and reserve it. And then, you see what I'm saying? And this is my days when I was on the Coliseum Commission and with the hotels. That's an issue you need to look at, because a competitor, and I've actually seen it happen at the Coliseum when I was there, that they changed it, and they've got a good lease, and I know your deal is probably not that big, but it does happen. If somebody wanted to do a dog show, and I keep saying that, in the case of the Coliseum, it was like a gun and knife show, and it was the same thing. The guy went in and was trying to reserve it for the next 5 years, and finally, I think Bill Holmes was there at the time, they changed it that you couldn't do that, because half the time he'd come in and cancel, but he kept somebody else from a gun and knife show from doing it.
Wow.
So you might want to look at that. And I don't know if Tim and them have looked at this.
We've looked at it.
I'm just, based
So
on
what
my
did they change
memory.
it to at the Coliseum?
I can't remember, but I know they
30
had,
days?
it was a difference because technically somebody could tie that thing up and keep their competitors out for as long as they wanted to.
I'm open to whatever
Well,
day
the
you all
competitor
want.
could apply for it within that 14 days.
Well, no, because they got it leased, so they could, every 14 days, I could call and say, Greg, I need to cancel, and then the next day, I could call up and reserve it
So
again.
he's saying,
So every
it'd be
day,
worth paying for. What he's doing, he's
Yeah.
paying for a permanent.
because see, your zone, just say it's one zone, it's $50 deposit. Well, you get your deposit back, so you can take that same $50 on every 14 days and keep your competitors out. So
Yeah.
I may be overthinking it, but I've just seen it happen, is why I bring that up. And then the other thing was, just my math. This seems to equal about $16,000. Say somebody comes in there and does all the zones.
Yes.
So what we're doing, we agree to charge $15,000 a week for somebody that does a whole thing.
Yes.
Which I'm good with. That kind of gives them a little break,
Yes, ma'am.
in my opinion. Was that what you were going for?
Yes, ma'am.
Yeah, because I think we all agree it'd be $15,000 a
Yeah.
week.
Yes, ma'am.
If they do the whole week and rent the whole thing. So if they don't, then they're gonna have to do it per zone for $16,000.
Yes, ma'am.
Am I reading that right?
Well, they'll do it per zone per day, which will, yes. So what we're trying to do is
About 16.
yes, ma'am, we're trying to encourage them to use the facility for the entire week.
Yeah, that makes sense. You give them a little break. That makes sense to me. And then, did you put something in here for the annex? And I only know that one group you bring in that use that.
Yes, ma'am.
Is that considered one of these zones? I know it says
Yes, that's-
excludes the annex land 4-H and dog park, but some people do rent that annex land.
Yes, ma'am. Zones 4 and 5 are the annex property. So the annex is split up into two separate sections.
Gotcha.
You have the section where the 4-H building sits, that's zone 4.
But now they won't rent that, but what's that group that the Spartan raised or whoever it was? That does that annex. Yeah, Money Princess. So in case, and the motorcycle guys used it, I think, one time.
Yes, ma'am, they do.
But yeah, make sure you got that in here. And then last but not least, the checks. Right here. Are we still doing no cash? Cash will not be accepted, checks will not be accepted from events with a 2-year history. Is there a reason behind that?
I actually added that because I thought if someone has been using us and it's the small people, small horse shows, and they've never had a problem, 2 years to me is good faith. I thought, but I
Is
mean,
that-
that's up to y'all.
I mean, it don't matter, I just wondered about the
Yeah.
bookkeeping nightmare on that.
Well, I know one thing that we'll do is to make sure that we don't take any checks that are dated any date other than the date that we actually received the check. So that's.
Yeah, that makes
That's
sense.
what we'll make sure to do. So
That
any
makes
any
sense.
check that we receive, it'll be voided if we receive it on a date that's different than what's on the check. We can do that.
See, we all agree no cash, but I really don't have a problem with a check unless you're thinking, is bad checks a problem, or?
Well, you don't want bounce checks, but I think what they're saying is if they've received a check from somebody for 2 years, they've always cleared.
Yeah, but I don't want Greg to have something, okay.
I understand, I think.
You'll know in your head, but if something happens, God forbid, and we got somebody new out there, they're not gonna know. I'm sorry, Jane.
That's okay. The issue with the receipts of the check is
the check should be received well in advance of the event, and then they are to be brought down to bookkeeping and deposited the next business day in accordance with statute.
And that's what the
That's
plan
the issue
is,
that we
yeah.
had had.
But he's saying that he wants to take the check that's dated the day of the event, right? Or
No,
the day of
we'll make sure that the
contract.
check is dated the date that we receive the check. See, I think the problem we were having was, people were writing the check prior to them bringing it to us. So, the date on the check might be 3 days prior to, we get it 3 days later, and it looks like we turned it in 4 days later.
But they mail it in, do they
And
mail it in
sometimes they mail it in.
sometimes?
Sometimes they do mail it in.
Do they mail it with the contract?
Yes, ma'am.
So as soon as you get it, then you could, but if you predate it, post-date it, I think, whatever it's called, is that gonna mess you up?
No, but we're trying to make sure that we're complying, so as long as the check is dated the date that he receives it, and they receive it today, and then get it down to bookkeeping tomorrow, there's no issue.
But that's not happening. But if they date it.
It didn't appear that that was happening in the past, and the auditors had written this up for 2 years in a row. So,
Are we?
as to document that, to eliminate that issue, if he receives a check today, and then Greg or Shannon drives the check down to bookkeeping and gives it to Melissa, which they date and sign when they receive the checks. If that's done within the next business day, then there's no issue.
The date on the check, it doesn't really matter, it's when you receive it, it has to be when you received it, you date it.
Stamp, do you have a stamp?
Yes, ma'am. We have a stamp and a receipt book that we report all that data.
But see, it says here that fees not paid to Harrison County within 5 days after the completion of the event. But on the other page, it says they need to be paid the day of the event, right?
Yeah, being paid at the completion of the event, if it's 5 days after the completion, then I believe it's considered delinquent. So it's late after that. Now, it is due the last day of the lease or the last day of the event. That's when all of your fees are due from Barnes.
But if it's delinquent, is there a penalty for it being delinquent, or why would you put that in there?
No, we never wrote up a penalty. No, ma'am. We could.
I mean, it doesn't matter.
There's a slight penalty. You're not allowed to book any further events. You're not allowed to lease until your balance with the county is caught up.
Well, maybe that's what that ought to say. It would be clearer if it said that. What you're saying, see on page 3, and it's underlined, but I mean, right before all that, it says something about fees not paid to Harrison County will be considered delinquent, but it doesn't define what that means. Is there a 10% charge, or maybe we need to put in there, you will not be able to rent? I may be overthinking it, but.
No, if there's no penalty, there's no reason to call it delinquent.
Yeah, but
The only
there
penalty
is a
we pretty much
penalty.
hold the deposit. That's pretty much the only penalty, and everything that Tricia said.
But instead of saying delinquency would be considered, maybe, that you will not be able to rent the facility
Okay.
ever again until it's paid for. I'm not a wordsmither, so
Till you clear your default,
thank you. See, I'm not good at that.
cure your default.
So can we clean that up just a hair and maybe look at it again on Monday? Or when's our next meeting?
It won't be for 2 more weeks.
The
If we
6th?
could just do,
Or send it to us?
Yes, ma'am. I'll send it to you.
yeah,
Maybe get with Tim and kind of, like I like his, to be considered in default.
Yeah, there is another issue that the board needs to be aware of, that the lease actually adopts an exhibit A, and you mentioned this earlier, it's not attached. My understanding that exhibit A was a policy adopted by the board, which was adopted 3 or 4 years ago. But that is incorporated into the lease. But I think that policy, I wasn't clear exactly which one, if we were doing a new policy or we used the one that was adopted by the board 3 or 4 years ago. But if you're gonna incorporate that policy into the lease, it needs to be attached.
It needs to be in there, that's, yeah.
Right.
And I do have to have Ms. Rebecca, I'm sorry.
okay, yeah.
It just wasn't labeled
Yeah,
exhibit
that's
A.
fine.
But then
Well,
maybe
that's
there
right.
needs,
That is a photograph
just a
of
map.
the map.
But
Exhibit
the,
A referred in the lease says,
goes back to the
it
policy.
says specified conditions in the policies and procedures for rental of Harris County Fairgrounds equipment considered attached here to the Exhibit A.
Okay, that should be on the lease, Greg, and I believe is what he's saying.
It should be
And I
attached.
don't know what, I'm not sure clear what was intended to be Exhibit A, is it
We
the
need to
policy?
read it again.
Can you get with Mr. Holloman, maybe, I'm sorry to be such a pain, but I
That's all
can
right.
just see, with my background, I've seen it all, y'all, I'm sorry, but I've seen it all.
Go back to number, right there at the end of number, is that where
You'd be
you're?
surprised.
No, I
Yeah,
wouldn't.
that's what it says.
I've seen it with the hotels, you probably saw the Boulevards, I mean, they know the workarounds. Not necessarily people that want this facility, but people that rent things.
Yeah, the fairgrounds are very different.
But in a way, they're the customer's
Unless you have a
different,
big-
but the rental agreement should be fairly the same.
Well, we've tried, I mean, every time we've tried to get a consistent lease, it goes from one district to the next.
Well, we all
Y'all
agree
change it.
15 grand a week for the whole thing. We all agree 16 grand
Yeah.
otherwise if it's per day. And
the wording on
$50
that.
per zone, the wording on this. So I think there's just a few things.
I'd like to ask Jennifer if there's any more anything she'd like to add to it. Maybe she could review.
I have not, I apologize, I have not read this new proposed lease, so I really can't add anything.
So maybe get with her too, so you make sure that all the,
Just clean it
everything's
up and send it
compliant.
to us.
Everything's compliant with what the auditors want to.
No problem.
Jennifer, let me ask you a question. I think what Greg said was that they date the check much earlier than
Yes.
the event. But Greg and them saying that they stamp it the date it's received. Is that a problem that the check being dated much earlier than the date it's received in reference to your audits when they look at that? As far as the check coming in the day after? He's saying the check is dated 2 weeks before they receive it.
I think the
When
bill
he receives
policy,
it, he has to turn it in the next day. Is that a problem with that earlier dated check? You understand what I'm saying?
I think, yes, that it could still lend itself to misinterpretation. I think if he employs the policy where they receive the check, the date that it is brought in, and then he brings it to bookkeeping, that would eliminate any confusion.
Well, let me ask Greg, so when you get the signed contract,
Yes, ma'am.
do they not hand you a check with it?
Yes, ma'am, they do.
So you could stamp the signed contract, check received.
Correct. But like I said, the problem is sometimes the person who fills out the application is not the one that writes the check.
I got
So
you.
the person who fills the application out is just bringing a check with them from somebody who actually wrote the check.
And they might have wrote the check a
They
week
might have
ago.
written the check 2 days ago. So then it looks like that our check is 3 days late.
Legally, there's nothing wrong with receiving a check that's dated before the date that you got it.
No, it's the
The
demand
auditors,
deposit
what
account.
happened is the auditors look at the date of the check,
Are
and
you
see the
holding
date we
it?
turned it in.
Correct.
They're drawing a
It's gotta be
conclusion.
turned in the next
So we
business
gotta
day.
figure-
Yeah.
All we have to do is any check that we receive, the date that we receive the check is the date that has to be on the check, or that check can be voided. And we'll have to make them write another check. We can do that, it'll be no problem.
But, I mean, that's not
That's not what
necessary,
it's
as long
saying.
as you're documenting that you're turning the check in the day, within one business day of when you receive the check, the date on the check doesn't matter.
Then
No,
that's-
it necessarily it doesn't, but in the cases that I had looked at the past year, there were several weeks and sometimes months before payment was made.
Well, that draws questions that
Yeah,
should be answered.
Yes, yes,
So there shouldn't be checks sitting there for a couple of months.
yes.
But if you're documenting when you received it and you're depositing within the 24 hours or weekend, whatever the
Yes.
law, the rule is, then there shouldn't be a problem. But when you see one that's 3 months old, that should raise questions
Yes.
and say, why is this check 3 months old? But it's not. The only thing they're trying to do is from the date the county receives it, get it deposited
Within
a
24
day,
hours.
Yes.
a business day.
Right.
And so,
What do
as
y'all
long as you
do?
document when you got the
Same
check,
thing happens with a tax
correctly,
collector. You gotta
it doesn't matter what the date on the check is. Now, you shouldn't receive a post-dated check. Under the law, a post-dated check is a promissory note, it's not a check.
But then,
that does
back
make
in
a
my
difference.
banking days, we cashed post-dated checks because it was called a DDA, demand deposit account. So once that check was presented to my teller window, it didn't matter if it had next week's, we
That's
can't.
not
that was
supposed to, because that becomes a promissory note when somebody writes a bad check. You can't arrest them for it because it's a promissory note, not a check.
Yeah,
So,
and that was all my questions, so if you'll just straighten them out for me. That's really, I'm just trying to play devil's advocate because of what I've been through.
No, that's
In
important.
other other jobs.
So I was hoping to get this done today because I've had a few people threaten to, well, 2 have pulled out and 2 more threatening not to come back because they're worried about all the hubbub. Can we do this and then approach this, or do we need to wait 2 weeks till you
still
can change
use
it
the
all?
lease form that you've got if you want, whatever the present lease form.
Okay.
We can
Use the
draft
current
up
one
a
until-
draft up a specific lease that will be approved by the board. Now, is this board authorizing Greg? This is what we talked about before. He's authorized to enter into these leases and then spread them on the minutes after. Because that's the way this is set up, which is fine, because you can't.
That's what we do with the centers, right?
Right.
Yeah, and that's what we talked
It's
about
okay,
this time.
as long as your board's got to authorize on its minutes, so if Rebecca's worried about some specific people that are now trying to lease, and we
He
don't
can
have to
operate.
lease, the board can authorize Greg to, with our assistance, to get a lease for them to handle it until we get this policy lease
Do you need a
adopted.
motion for that?
Yeah,
Until we get this. I'll
do you
move.
have any particular ones?
All right, any more discussion?
Do you have any particular ones you want to mention, or there? No.
I mean, not really.
The board's gonna authorize Greg to enter into lease in the interim, and
Until-
I mean, I can tell you off the record. I
Until
don't-
this is more
I just
finalized.
want to get Greg's authority to sign any leases in the interim.
Yeah.
As long as they're spread on the minutes by the next board meeting.
Okay. All right, any more discussion?
That's my motion.
That way we can handle those in the meantime.
Yeah, that way it won't hurt business.
Okay. Any more discussion? All those in favor say aye. Anyone opposed? Motion carries.
I don't think we got a question.
Claudia, you have a question?
Oh, no, you're gonna, we're gonna take action on it. I guess you're gonna table this until the next meeting.
Oh, motion to table
Yeah.
this particular item until next
So the
week.
board did authorize Greg to, okay.
But they didn't approve this one.
Do we have to do that in a separate motion, or that's just
Move
incorporated?
to table it, yeah, you have to table it. so-
A substitute motion to table this request at this time.
All right, we have a substitute motion on the floor. Second?
Second.
Any discussion? All those in favor say aye. All right, motion carries. All right, Mr. Holloman, do you have anything today?
I do have something. I've been contacted by the Biloxi School District about the skate park building. I think that qualifies for executive session. It should be an executive session because it involves the sale and or purchase of real estate negotiation.
Okay.
The board needs to tell me what they want to meet, so we need to know what direction the board wants to go in regarding that building.
I'm surprised.
I was gonna say, we just moved
So
it.
I'll take it very long, but I.
That's fine.
It's an
Okay.
executive session for that purpose.
All righty, anything else?
But,
Ask the boss.
Oh. We had this discussion last week. We were unclear on what size building. We're trying to do the specification for the building at the fairgrounds that the board is authorized. We're all confused as to exactly what size building the board approved. It went from 2 buildings to 1 building, back
Right.
to 1, and we're not clear.
Greg, do you know what
Greg,
they
yeah.
need? Sorry.
It's okay.
Greg went
What was
clear.
the final, when we went from 2 to 1, what was the size we
Yes,
talked?
the original size of the one was 8 by 100. That was the original,
What is it now?
8 by 100.
So that's the building?
Yes.
Yes, ma'am.
One of the problems with the confusion, and I was only aware of this at the last board meeting, we was talking about a barn. The term barn was used.
No,
And
that's confusing. It's office space.
it's an office space.
Right.
It's a metal building.
Yes.
It's a metal building. Has outside building and grounds been consulted in doing this? By God, we built a pavilion up there. I've asked people, if you wanna really see what the capability is of an outside building ground, go look at the West Harrison Water and Sewer District that they built. Nice facility. Save West Harrison Water and Sewer District approximately $250,000, $300,000. And they paid the employees overtime to do that work. So what is wrong with our outside building and grounds now that we can't do that kind of stuff? We're talking about saving a lot of money.
Well, they have to have the plans and specifications to go by.
Well, that shouldn't be hard
He's probably got
to
that.
get.
And I don't know, and some of the people that did all that before are not, they're not.
Well,
there,
then we
so
need
I
to
don't
start
know.
looking at it, because what's happening is we're gonna be right back where we were when I first came on this board. Outside building and grounds have personnel, but what we were doing was contracting everything out. You ask them to do a little thing, no problem. Next thing you know, what was coming across the invoices were contracts. They were contracting everything out. If that's the case, then we don't need a crew. Now, we need to really look at our outside building and grounds. If they have the capability of doing that, they need to do it. Now, we did have it, and I'm not questioning whether those personnel exist again, but I wonder why they don't.
Electrician's leaving.
What's the guy that came from Zion? He's a contractor.
He can do the sheet rock and all that.
He's
Yeah, he can
good.
do it.
I think we got the people. I'm good with that.
We had them, we
Yeah,
had
we
the
had it. We looked
electricians,
into it.
we
should
have
have.
electricians.
We
Yeah, we got.
should
We
have.
you got plumber, you
got
got,
two
why in the world can't they
contractors.
do that? And
They can't.
It just may take them longer to do it,
That's all.
because they get pulled off from doing other jobs.
We've been
They're supposed to be
without
doing
that building for a
maintenance
long time.
jobs.
Well, I
We
agree
built
with
fire
Mark.
stations,
We've done, they've
outside
done a
building
great
and grounds,
job.
they built
Senior
fire
center-
stations,
senior centers.
other facilities.
So Greg, can you, get with them? Tim, now you know what size building we're talking about, which was your question.
8,900.
So before you go out for bids, talk to building and grounds, get with Pam
And let's find, if they can't do it, I'd like to know why they can't do it.
Yeah.
At least, Marla, let us be the general contractor on it,
But-
so that if they have a shortage, they can hire somebody to, an electrician, or if they're out, or they can hire a plumber if they don't have one, or they're too busy. But at least let the county be the
I just don't
general
wanna get back where we
contractor.
were when I first came on this board. We had a outside building and ground, and we were contracting everything out.
But Greg, does this, this seems like a lot of space for your office complex, this 8 by 100.
Yes, it's not just our office space, it's also, it's replacing 3 other trailers that we have out there that's used by renters who rent the facility. Also, it's a space for when the Winter Classic
Storage.
comes.
Just under
Storage,
one.
yes, but also when the Winter Classic comes, they bring in a whole crew. They also have multiple offices that they normally use in those back trailers as well. And then, of course, for anybody who rents the facility, they like to have a space they can count money or do whatever they need to do in
So
a private location.
We'll dispose
Winter
of all
Classic
this.
won't stay there forever, she won't have like a regular,
I'm
she
sorry, say
won't,
it one more time.
she won't stay there. That Winter Classic won't have a permanent office out there.
No.
She's just gonna rent it. You see, their trailers are in bad shape.
But the other trailers will all, once this is built, they're.
Yeah, all those
All the trailers will be gone.
All
And
the
we're looking
trailers.
50 years ahead, y'all. We're not talking about this year. I mean,
No, they're
it's gonna
massive.
grow.
Where your office is, you fall through the floor.
Well, they're
Fall
not
through
in
the
it
floor.
anymore.
Can I add one thing so the board knows this? What we met about last week was to try to get this moving and how we were gonna do it. How the county's gonna do it. The county's gonna, the way I understand, Mike Wilson them did it previously, we still have to have an engineer, Jackie does not do that.
Yeah.
We have to have an engineer design the
You know, she's not structural.
slab. She's not a structural engineer, and certify the slab. That slab then has to be
Oh,
provided
yeah.
to a metal building, so you send it to you still have to buy the metal building.
Right.
That's designed to the slab, and then what the county was doing was erecting it. I'm not sure
And generally, they did not do the concrete work.
That's right.
They had to contract, that was the only thing that they had to contract out was concrete work.
We still have to have an engineered slab, so you'll have to have an engineered slab.
Did Danny have that?
Danny did ours.
I don't know if they did that.
Danny has.
It might have been
We didn't
structural
we didn't
and-
hire an engineer, I know that for these buildings that they built, so I don't know how he got around it or whether he had
I
that.
think Danny has.
I think all that was prior to some.
I know Danny was getting a certification for some sort of a road building. When the county was doing roads, he got us, Jackie, I don't
Yeah.
know exactly, I wasn't that familiar with the engineering, but he was working and got certification so that he could do roads, if I'm not mistaken. I could easily be mistaken, so I don't know what it was that he
I thought
got.
he got we had to get a
The contract.
construction, a contractor's
License.
license or.
That might have been-
Contractor's license.
Yeah.
Because through the code, because the code, that's what the code had said, we cannot build without somebody signing.
But if we have an outside building and grounds still capable of doing what they were doing, then I would suggest that, I don't know, Jackie, could you do that? Could you get that certification?
I've got the general responsible party contractor's license for the county, and I've got the, can't think of the word, but the subset for heavy equipment and road building, because that's what my history has always been. I do not have building construction because that's not my experience, but we have the overall county license. So if we have somebody who's specifically qualified to build the building, they can just take that specialty. It's kind of like an electrician's license.
Well, could you do that? I'm not quite sure I understand what you're saying.
Building grounds.
I thought
Having a
I mean,
general
I could
contractor's
probably
license.
study for it and take an exam, but when you take that exam, what you're doing is signing off saying that you are gonna personally be responsible for overseeing every bit of that construction. And that would mean that while they're on the site building it, I would need to be standing there watching them do it, and I'm not sure that's the most efficient way to do this. If somebody's gonna be overseeing that construction and they can pass that test, we've already got the general one covered, I've got that.
Got that?
Right.
Could we, if our people can do the job, can we contract somebody that has that certification that can sign off on it? If I understand correctly, what we're talking about?
Building grounds should have that, could have
I
it.
don't know, that's
I
what
was
I'm
thinking the
asking.
director had, maybe he had taken the test, I thought he had taken the test, but let me check back with him and see.
That he could-
because-
he
and
could
see
do
if he
that.
ever did or where he was on it, too.
I'm just telling y'all my experience, they did everything out there with that building.
I like the in-house.
They did everything, except the concrete. They did not pour and dress the concrete off, but everything else, they did it.
So where are you with this? So Tim, you just want to know the signs of the building, but now we need to look at,
We were trying to figure out to go forward with getting somebody to do plans and specs, and so the issue came up about who's gonna do that. It's Jackie's not.
Yeah, and the conversation we kind of had was what's the most efficient way to get each piece done where we're not wasting money where we don't need to.
but you can get the specs and then our building grounds people can, if they can, go by the specs. I'm not.
Yeah, they can, I mean, Mike Wilson was doing it, all their, once the slab is designed structurally sound, and you give that to the people that are gonna supply the building, they engineer the building to the slab, all you're really doing is erecting
But
it.
our guys could go in and actually build out the offices and stuff.
Yes, I mean, that's interiorly,
Oh, definitely.
The interior part's relatively easy.
that's just,
Yeah, I think if there's different ways you can do where you can do a structural engineer can figure out every little piece of it.
Wind loads
You can
and all
have
that.
one that can do just the slab and then performance spec a building. You can do a performance spec that covers the building and then they subcontract somebody to design their slab for them. And we're looking at those options for this size building. What's the most efficient, cheapest way to make that happen?
probably
The interior finish out, I think, is something that we certainly
We can do
can
that.
do.
electrical and all
But
that
it's
stuff
that-
is easy, it's plumbing, because you gotta know where the bathrooms are, you gotta know where kitchens are, you gotta put the plumbing in the slab, that's a.
So do you have what you need in order to move forward to bid this out, I
Wouldn't it
guess?
require an architect?
We were
or
just,
somebody?
when we met, we weren't, I wasn't clear on what ultimately was the board's authority for what building, that's why we brought it up. And then the next question is, how do we, you can, there's these companies, you can bid it, they do everything, for slab, everything.
And so they provide those stamped engineer drawings as part of their
Right.
product. So,
Mr.
Or you
Hunt,
can-
how big is the one at West Harriet, how big is that facility?
My God, I don't know how big it was, but I
Because we
believe
may
they,
have those
when
plans.
they actually first bidded it out to see what the cost was, and I think it was something like, I'm not sure, pay them $600,000-700,000. And I asked Virgil Gillespie the other day, what were their actual costs? couldn't remember the actual cost, but he did remember what they saved. You always remember what you saved.
Yeah.
And it was close to $300,000.
I was gonna say, I thought it cost
When I did the senior center at Woolmarket, all we did was duplicate, the, community center and just add it to it. That's what we did. So if you have old drawings and old plans from other buildings, maybe we could use those.
Yeah, I was gonna see if we have that one.
See if you
maybe
got
see
it.
what that size is.
And just to give you another example of why I'm saying this, is after the storm Katrina, of course, we lost some fire stations. And we received, or had $300,000 or so for a fire station, but we needed two. We were really needing to replace two. Well, we only had $300,000, and the history of the bids for fire stations was roughly $300,000. So we were gonna only have to build one fire station. When the outside building and grounds got involved, they built two for $200,000. So it was costing about $100,000. Now that cost didn't include concrete, that was separate. So we built two fire stations for $300,000 as opposed to one.
So give Jackie and Tim some direction.
Somehow or another, the county was doing it.
Okay.
And we really need to look at what we were doing. I hope we were doing everything legally. If we weren't, then
Don't mention
but
it.
by God, I'm willing to save that much money, I might be willing to take that
So the
chance.
next step, if I
I'm sure we
But,
will.
but
Yeah.
we did it. We've done it, and we did it.
so the
So
next
why
step.
aren't we looking at that now?
Well, that's what I was gonna,
let's-
so we could be clear. So the next step, Tim, you now know the size of the building needed.
Right.
Jackie, you need to figure out, see how much the building cost and what plans come with it. But before that, get with Pam and find out with West Harrison County. See if those plans are still around, which they probably are out there in that building somewhere, because y'all never throw nothing out. Or not you particularly.
It's
but-
probably got, she
I don't-
just still.
It's probably there.
Picks on me all the time.
I don't, the West Harrison is much more expansive than what I think Greg is requesting. Those
But that'll
plans-
give her an idea.
those- Well, they give her an idea, but those plans wouldn't be appropriate for what I think Greg, you might
Just
take
office,
off
just
of
the
it.
building,
so-
though.
Let's look at it.
Office buildings, conference room, kitchen, great bathrooms.
So we can get started.
Take a look at it and see, but
I'd like to be
I
there.
think the size is gonna be
Yeah,
different.
But that'll give you something to go.
yeah, I don't think it's that size.
And we're talking about the prefab that you erect, right? Like the big metal structure that
Yeah.
you buy and then we erect,
Yeah.
okay.
The key is to make sure that when you buy those, if you do that yourself, you gotta make sure that the foundation fits the building.
Mhm.
Right.
Because when it comes in, the
Yeah,
foundation.
there was a
Yeah, that'd be
few little
important.
issues.
Understand
Right,
problems, like-
right.
There were a few little issues with West Harrison as far as the plumbing and the things where the wall, they had to make some changes to maybe some walls, had to change and stuff based on the slab.
Willie Allen says we do not. I asked him, does he have a general contractor license? He says they do not.
So
He
that
never
was,
took
Needs to
it.
go get one.
I thought he
Yeah.
took it. I thought he took the test.
maybe he studied for it.
Yeah.
Why not do a bid, request for bids for a whole thing, ball of wax, and see what it is?
And then value engineer it, because that's what we did for the new
And then you can
break
building
it
on
down.
Seaway.
Go ahead
That's
and do that
exactly what
if
we
you're not in a hurry. Absolutely.
Just put out bids.
Well, let's
see.
do that.
Let
I
them
mean, his
get it.
floor's falling through, so we're in a little bit of a hurry, but not
Well, and-
desperate.
And really, the critical parts are getting your main structure and your slab done
That's what we said.
completely code compliant and everything. And if we don't have the ability to do the actual structure in-house, I'm sure we can do a lot of the finishing. And, I mean, we can save a lot
Well,
that
let's
way.
get
if we
started.
can.
The bolts have to line up with the holes that's.
We did.
That's for sure.
And I've heard some stories on some of these buildings where that didn't necessarily happen and they had to figure it out. And I don't know that I'm comfortable saying this is something you wanna cut or not. Danny did
But
the
no,
ones that
what
I
we
didn't.
did, Jackie, whenever we did the bids for the Seaway Road, the multi-department building, they all sat in here and we valued engineer. I say we, I kind of just listened, but the powers that be.
You did more than listen.
Valued engineer it and said, all right, we can do this in-house, we can
Right.
do this in-house, we can do this in-house, and they all understood that their bids were not to include those certain deals. So I thought it went well, and knock on wood, hadn't had an issue yet, so.
All right, so you'll move forward with that. All right, Angela, I'm sorry, Tim, anything else?
Now we know the side of the building, we're gonna look at working on
Giggle.
specs on what we want.
Okay.
We don't know exactly interiorly what we want, but I'm sure Greg can look at
All right, Angela?
that. I did have the executive session.
Yeah. Dr. Ladner? Mr. Jones? Ms. Martin?
Yeah, I just had a couple of things. One, I was just wondering if we had an update on our audit. I keep getting emails. I guess they think I'm still.
Taking over my office.
So
I know
can you
that.
give us an update on the audit that we
I
do
did
in
receive an
December?
email this morning from Will, who's the partner in charge. He did say he was coming, January 30th. He was gonna stay the full week. I guess he was still meeting with his partners to get an exact date of when we'll have a final product that can be released.
But it was due
It was due the end of December.
December, and before that, it had an update, and I got that email about our bond rating going down, and so I'm just a little worried about it.
I understand, and I am
I've asked them to
too.
give
And
a
I,
report to the board at the first meeting in February.
Oh, good, because
I did
he's
ask
telling us
last,
what
he
to
said he
deal
would.
with.
I didn't tell him
Because we're getting in
to
trouble.
appear unless y'all wanted to appear, I just told him to give us a written report so the board would know where he was.
Something.
Yes.
We've never
We've
had
been
this before.
pushing.
Politely.
politely,
Maybe
we've
we
been
don't
pushing,
do
and
this so
he
polite.
understands it, and I'm trying to work diligently to get everything that they will need, so when they get here, they can just strictly audit,
Because
so.
see, with all of these projects we got going, none of that's gonna be possible if they lower our bond rating because of an audit being late through no fault of our own. So Mr. Will needs to tell us what's up, in my opinion.
I agree.
We're pushing him out.
And then I just had two other things, I guess, for executive session as well as the engineer and road department's director's salary position. And then I didn't know, Miss Janet, if you wanted me to talk, that Mardi Gras Mambo, I think she needs an answer on that.
Oh, yeah.
Are y'all
Forgot
aware
to
of
bring
that?
that up, too.
You wanna,
You want to come forward, Janet?
I answered you, but I don't think anybody else did.
What this is, the city of Gulfport has always had this, and they've done it for like 10+ years. But this year, they've had some medical problems, and they're not able to have it. So Meg Holland and I got together and said, well, we would do it if we could get approval through the board. This here is something, normally they have about 500 seniors that attend all on the coast, all of the senior centers, and they look forward to this every year. So this is something that I just want to see if y'all would approve for me and Meg to go ahead and have this, put this event on. And if it does, it would be the 16th of February. And I know that this is something that is kind of a rush because our time to put it together. And the only thing, there would be no expense to the county. It would just be that we would get the vendors, they would pay like $75 to display all of their services. And then we would take that, of course, we would put it into the general account and write purchase orders for the meal. And in the past, they've always had jambalaya, and we hoping that we can continue to have this. And we had spoken with the sheriff's department, and they said that there's a possibility they were gonna check to see if they would be able to cook it. So as long as we can get approval to you, I think we could get it out to our sponsors, which would be all of the vendors that.
Now, how's this gonna work with Gulfport? So you're gonna sell booth space, exhibit space?
Yes.
How many exhibitors?
We're hoping to get 30.
At $70 a piece?
Because, 75. So that would be, just strictly go toward the food.
And I'm sorry, Miss Janet, what's the location?
It is, the Lyman Community Center on Highway 49.
That's big enough. I was just thinking 500, but yeah.
Yeah, yes, that's what they've always
So
had
we
in
would
the
be,
past.
Harrison County would be the actual the sponsor, so we would do a
We'll be the
sponsorship.
promoter.
Promoting, yeah. And Meg's just helping.
Yeah,
No
she's-
cost to the
she's
county.
No cost, no expense to the county
No,
at
Will
all.
the city waive the rent?
They did, they gave us 2 days, they said to go in.
Imagine if we got a bill last
No, they have given us the building and we can have it that day and the day before to come in and set up.
And no revenue sharing with the city?
Pardon me?
Or is there any revenue sharing with the city?
No.
She's just assisting with vendor, help getting vendors.
And
That's
who's
out
paying
to-
her?
Meg?
She
Meg is
volunteered.
just volunteering.
She's a
Then why did
professional
she say with
volunteer.
the city?
But she works for
She
the.
works
Well,
for the city.
She works for the
Oh, she
city.
does?
Yeah.
I didn't know
Yes,
that.
she works for
She
Charles
works for the
Walker.
I didn't know
But
that.
yes,
Okay.
So they'll take care of her salary while she's there?
yes,
Gotcha.
yeah, and
I
they,
need to come back to me, I do have something.
Okay.
Only things
I'm fine with it. If
Yeah,
it's during
I-
the week, no overtime.
Okay.
So anyone, motion
I
to
make a
accept?
motion.
Second?
Second.
Any more discussion? All those in favor say aye. Anyone
thank,
opposed?
thank you.
Thank you, Janet. That's a great idea. Dr. Laddy, I'm sorry, anything else,
No,
Beverly?
I'm good.
Dr. Laddy, you have
Yes, I
something?
want to go back. We've all received the email from Tim in reference to the federal court decision with the Corps of Engineers turning on the voluntary spillway, I said turning it on, opening the gates.
Yeah.
The coalition is gonna be meeting, I think sometime Wednesday, again, to look at strategy where we go from here. I know it said that the court ordered the Corps to consult with National Fisheries before they open the spillway. What consult means and what that is, I guess, is in question.
Right.
I don't know if they have a veto, would the fisheries have a veto power over the Corps, or is it a public hearing? How do we get involved, or how does the parties address the fisheries if we have concerns about the Corps opening it up? So I think that's the strategy we're gonna be dealing with, where we go from here with that, but at least it's a foot in the door, so to speak, so just inform y'all of that.
Good. That's a great thing.
And that'll be
Kim might
discussed,
wanna
that'll be
address
discussed
those.
on Wednesday about what the options are. There's been a proposal to go to Washington and meet with the representatives, to try to get some input to the Mississippi Wildlife
And
Conservation.
Supervisor Lander's chairman of that particular committee right now.
That's right.
So who is it that's supposed to go to Washington?
Gerald Wesley had a list of people, so
Can I see it?
I don't think he had a specific list. He basically said, supervisors. I know he suggested me and Peter and Marlon and several others.
I think I.
Anybody else that wanted to.
Connie and I,
that's what he said.
we've worked on that committee through NACO
Right.
for years. And I'm not speaking for
I've
you, but
stayed
I would
caucus.
like to go.
I think it would be good.
We're going in February, so if we could maybe set up the meeting in conjunction with NACO, maybe would be helpful.
Right, I think he was saying, that.
Well,
let
it's
me
gotta be
see what he
careful
said,
about
they were talking about going.
But they had called me about a statement the same that you had sent out a deal as well, so. But with NACO, we could
You
get
gotta
them
realize there's gonna be other entities
Right.
that are not gonna necessarily agree with
Oh, I
us.
understand.
And,
People in
so,
North Louisiana.
Well, that was an issue that we had with
That's
the
always
five
been an
state,
issue.
when the five state was there.
That was
we had-
awkward.
It's still there.
you've got people in,
It was
you got
supposed to be
some
co-
people in Louisiana agree with us,
We're
and some
familiar.
who don't.
Oh, we were in
We
one
were there.
from
Like we
DC,
said.
yeah.
You
So
gotta
that lady got
remember,
so mad
they
because Connie
so
was saying how
involving
we kill our
all those people.
dolphins.
Yep,
You're
Well,
gonna
the-
we're
have,
familiar with it.
they might show up in Washington too, we might not
Oh, we
want
were all
them.
sitting there.
Well,
for
the
that
five
state
state caucus is supposed
So
to be
we've
from
seen it.
coastal counties. And the
Some of them.
problem was that the director of all of the counties was there and he cast his vote and I objected. I said, you cannot represent the whole state because there's more state than there is coastal counties or coastal parishes, I apologize, in the state in there, so.
Well, just let us know because it's important. I know it is to my constituents and I'm sure it is to everybody in the county.
All right, thank you, Marlon. Supervisor Rocco?
I'll forward y'all the email when he was talking about that, so you'll have it.
Thank you.
When I get to it, I couldn't find it while I was looking.
Pam?
I want to bring up about the code, so do we need to do it in an executive session, just because we're gonna be discussing salary and different
We can do
things
that.
in the code office and stuff?
We'll include that.
Anything else?
That's it.
Okay, Sheriff? All
Marlon, are
right.
you going to, DC with,
I will.
for NACO?
Coalition.
For NACO? Because NACO will send a, if they pass it, they will pass their support. NACO will give their support to this as
But
well,
that's
through
what,
the caucus.
but can I make a
But
motion?
you need to be there.
Yeah.
I make a motion to go into closed session to discuss going into executive session for the purpose of code, engineer, and, road department salary adjustments, and to discuss potential litigation involving the school board and skate park. Is that right?
Anybody on the board have an objection?
It's not litigation, it's
We
just
don't
an
need to go
offer,
into-
some purchase.
We don't need to go into closed session.
Okay.
I'm sorry, on what?
Motion to go into executive session for the salaries that were discussed, code,
Second.
road, engineering, and to discuss, proposal with this, from the school board concerning the skate park.
Personnel matter and a matter of negotiation of purchase or sale of real estate.
Okay, thank you.
All right, we have a motion. Do we have a second?
Second.
All those in favor? Say aye. Aye. Anyone opposed? All right, motion carries. Thank you all.
In course of executive session, the board discussed 2 matters of personnel. No action was taken, and 1 matter involving potential litigation involving purchase of real estate, negotiation and sale of real estate of the skate park. No action was taken.
All right. We have a motion to,
Do we need a motion?
adjourn. Thank you.
Sorry. But do we need a motion to ask our attorney to meet to discuss the skate park, or?
Yeah, I'm not gonna make, I think I can meet with them without having more authority, because we're not gonna do
In
it.
that case, I'll make a motion to adjourn.
Do we have a second? Second. All those in favor say
I don't
aye.
want any authority to negotiate.
Meeting is
Back y'all, y'all can decide.